No matter where you live on Earth, this is where you came from. And of all the people living today, the ones whose lives most resemble the way we all once lived are the Hadza.
The Hadza are the only people now living in Africa who, just a few hundred of them, are actually practicing a hunting and gathering way of life full-time, relying on no agricultural resources at all.
In our search for origins, we start with people alive today and trace back in time, taking this genealogical approach, constructing a family tree. Genetically speaking, I think the Hadza trace back to the first people to live in East Africa. They have been living continuously in the same place for tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of years.
There's far fewer people connected to nature now, and certainly no one connected in the way the Hadza are.
To them, the land belongs to the animals, and they're just borrowing it for the time being.
At the core, they're real activists, environmental activists.
Sasa naona hatuwezi kweli, Mama Kiani, hatuwezi sisi maisha ya siku hizi ya kwetu ya zamani.
Kwake, kwa maana yake yana anapokuja kwetu huko.
It's an agrarian crisis. It's a political crisis. It's a development crisis.
Tukijidai kuwa kwamba ngoja tukae mbali na watu wandio wanaokuja, tunakwisha hamna mtu.
The Hadza have lived here longer than any group of people have lived in any one place on Earth. When the Egyptian pyramids were completed, the Hadza had already been on their lands for over 50,000 years.
Kalima wa inama. Nafikiri sisi tunapowinda mnyama tunayemwamini sana ni twiga, pofu, pundamilia, tandara na wanyama wengine wadogo wadogo kama nyani.
I have never known of a Hadza losing an animal, because even if you are a poor tracker, your brother or your best friend or your cousin or your uncle, one of those guys is going to be a really decent tracker and he'll help you out. They will see the tip of one leaf that has been bent and they'll say, okay, the kudu went that way.
The Hadza continue to practice a way of life that has sustained our species for most of human history, leaving virtually no mark on the land.
They are the strongest link we have to a past that for almost 2 million years was the way in which we lived.
The Hadza have this amazing knowledge about the land they live on. It's very functional, it's very practical. When a Hadza is walking in the bush, he's picking up all this stuff that most of us are not. A bird calls, and suddenly they'll just start running. What it is, it's an eagle that took a dik-dik down, and they just picked it up on a slight call somewhere.
Nilimkuta kwenye kuchunga. Wanachunga, nikamvizia kama hapa paka kule, nikasimama. Nikasubiri atoke. Ametoka kama ile mti ya kule chini. Nikampiga kwa kama kule chini kule, kwenye zile mti.
It's knowledge that presumably everybody in the past would have had, and you would have passed it on through storytelling. Nothing was written down. Most of us, if we were dumped down there without anything else to survive other than our wits, we wouldn't be able to do it because we've lost all of that. They retain it, And that's an important insight into the way we lived for most of our evolutionary history.
Kuna ndege fulani tunaitaka tikiliko, ituonyesha asali hiyo. Leo jioni haipatikani sana. Asubuhi tikiliko mingi.
Inatusaidia kwa sababu ya kurahisisha kuona nyuki, na yeye ana faida ya kula yale masega. Utakapotoa kwenye nyuki unakula unatupa yale masega yake, ndio ukiondoka inachukua inapeleka kwenda kwa mtoto. Unaweza ukapita hapa bila kuona, lakini yenyewe unaweza kufikisha mpaka kama endabojo ikakurudisha mpaka hapa ulikotoka, ikakuonyesha.
Honey. It's actually the #1 ranked food among men, women, and children. The most common honey that they consume is the honey from the African killer bees.
Smoke enables us to quell the bees and spend 15-20 minutes getting the honey out. It's the most developed, co-evolved, mutually helpful relationship between any mammal and any bird.
In a conservation group, we talk about that all the time, that nature and people are integrally connected. It's hard to imagine a better connection than that.
Obe akata otako kwa baala tukipeleka kile asali kule mnadani tunakuta Waswahili wa Mang'ati wanapendelea sana hapo, ndio tunabadilishana hapo. Basi sisi tunachukua ile mzigo tunapotaka sisi.
Mene wao mama.
Kidogo kile cha unga kimeenda kwa nani jana? Wayama na.
Kwa obetsa semengo bapema na keta yama shoda teta mama na keta. Kwa kukape ya mwaka utasaika gela na mana keta ya ngongo bape luwa ya babita tasese. Amanako.
Amana kwa pe aina meima, amana kwa pe kaka onepe eba mukelewe yako mukelewe.
Just as modern theory holds that humans evolved from a common primate ancestor in the Rift Valley, Hadza mythology tells us that they descended from baboons in the same land.
One day, the god Hyene sent some baboons to gather food. He sent the others to bring water. Tired and thirsty, the food foragers returned with their bounty under the hot sun. The others had not returned with the water. They waited and waited. Finally, Hyene determined they should go to the river to see what became of their companions. They arrived at the riverbank to find the other baboons splashing and playing in the water. Hyene angrily called the baboons from the river. From now on, Hyene said to the successful foragers, "You will be Hadza Bey." He told the others they would remain baboons. To the Hadza Bey, Hyene said, "You will live in the bush and eat berries and tubers and the fruit of the baobab tree. But first and foremost, you will eat meat."
ama unua kakashata ya manako ama ahama ikabe abepi kokobobi za manako ikaicha apigamia manako andeka unakata namna hiyo unafanya hivyo na ingine hapa namna hiyo namna hiyo na ingine hapa unajaza mpaka basi wewe unatembea katikati kama dume mashita kama dume ya ng'ombe au mbogo unapeleka nyumbani nyama mama kwa ngozi basi mnakwenda miaka ngapi kidogo namna hii ni hasa be sasa nani nakaa hapa kwenye mama
Obeko utaishisa beka wako. Sasa mebami uko mashida. Lakini beka huko ishise ope. Nafikiri mnyama yote tunamuogopa sisi ni tembo kwa sababu ina mikono, lakini simba halina shida.
As guardians of this land, going back countless generations, the Hadza take only what they need and use all that they take.
Well, that bush pig has been cut up in about 17 minutes, something like that, and people started eating within 10 minutes of it being cut, I think.
Again, kwa hiyo sasa hivi unachoma kwenye moto, lakini baadaye utachemsha kwenye sufuria. Ipi ndio unapenda zaidi? Unapenda kuchemsha au kuchoma hivi hivi?
Kuchoma ni mimi napenda kwa kuchoma.
Kweli ina tamu zaidi
Tamu zaidi. Tunachoma wanaume. Halafu nyama hii yote unapeleka
kwa kina mama.
Really, you know, if we were going to have a sensible use of the words, we would call it gather a hunter. Because there are many days in which no meat comes in. All of the hunters in the camp fail to get any meat. But there is no day in which the women fail to gather. This sort of environment, particularly in the dry season, has very little plant food to offer, but there's one kind of food that very few animals exploit that humans have a tremendous opportunity to get. And that's what we're looking at here, digging for roots. Roots are a wonderful source of food because they are a store both of nutrients and of water. There is a nice big tuber. Mama, you know where's on Musizi? We're all happy now because this is the kind of big root that is the pay dirt. This is the food that enabled our ancestors to colonize the savannas. It gave them a secure food base even when there was nothing else to eat. No meat, no honey, no fruit, no seeds. This is what kept us going.
There are several species of tubers that the Hadza consume. The most common one is called equa. I think it tastes like jicama, but I've been told that it doesn't. But I stand by that. I stand by the jicama.
Unaweza choma hapa au kule kwa nyumbani? Kampini. Sio hapa. Hamna moto. Lakini unaweza tengeneza moto. Lakini Hamna. Oh, so you don't have your fire sticks with you. And that means you can't make a fire. And so you have to go back to camp to be able to choma. You are understanding English very well. Now, Membe, hii mzizi ya leo, ndio. Utakula leo au kesho, kesho kutwa nini? Leo tu. Yote tamaliza. Okay, now with the children.
We all share much more DNA in common with each other than we really should, given the size of our population, the 7 billion people alive today. And it's a sign that we actually went through a near extinction event ourselves. We think it happened around 70,000 years ago. The human population dropped to fewer than 10,000 people, perhaps as few as, a couple of thousand. Everybody living in Africa.
Many anthropologists now say the Hadza have lived in this area for thousands and thousands of years. And yet, it's only been in the written history books that the Hadza are living in this area and that they even exist for approximately 100 years. If you talk to the Hadza about this, they say the reason that it took so long for people to realize that they were there is that when they saw outsiders, they were fearful initially, and so they would run into the bush and hide. The Hadza, based on language and based on their genetic diversity, were most likely there before all of the neighboring tribes.
The Hadza's first documented contact with outsiders was in 1915. In the years since, colonialists, missionaries, and governments have made many unsuccessful attempts to modernize them.
We're talking about a country that had been under German rule. When Germany lost its colonies in World War I, it became a part of the British colonialism.
One of the things colonialism did was to turn these economies into cash crop producing economies. The best land, water is being given to those things. There are structural conditions that make these already vulnerable regions become even more vulnerable.
Tanzania gained its independence in 1961, and the government adopted a socialist policy.
The project of nation building in Tanzania took a particular form in which there was a deliberate effort to create national culture through national language, national this, national that, and that had implications for the maintenance, reproduction, and sustenance of the different ethnic communities.
Pressured by the Tanzanian government to stop wearing animal skins, they adopted Western clothing, mostly donated by foreign visitors.
In the 1970s, the Hadza people were removed and put into villages, villagization, as a part of a development strategy. On paper, it did look like a good policy where you could bring people together and everybody would have an elementary school, medical facilities, a water pump, really basic things. That looked fine. But at the same time, you're forcing people to move. So in the long run, the Hadza ended up going back to their ancestral homes.
I first heard about the Hadza from Warden out of the Serengeti. I was 68, 69, and he pointed down toward the Ida Valley there and said, there's indigenous people down there. There's still the Bushman-like habits and stuff, and they're very hard to reach. We were extremely lucky. We found the Hadza the first day out, which apparently in those days was kind of hard to do. What struck me very much was how little time they really had to spend hunting and digging. I mean, they really had a lot of leisure. They're very dignified, and they have a beautiful life, and they know it. But as soon as you bring them into civilization, they're at the bottom of the pile, and everybody preys on them.
It comes down to wealth. It comes down to goods. Governments don't like it. They don't get any tax revenue out of them. And how do you measure success? In the whole world, you measure success by accumulation of wealth. This is a different way. It's the way we all were for most of our evolutionary history. And many people consider it backward, primitive, something that should change. You may be aware of the government giving the whole Eyasi Basin to a royal family from Abu Dhabi as their hunting grounds. This was back a few years ago. Stephanie McCrum from the Washington Post came out. We went with a local journalist down there in the valley, threatened by politicians en route, and wrote that story, front page Washington Post. And that turned the tide. The Abu Dhabi sent a delegation to the UN Indigenous Rights Department and said, look, you know, is this going to hurt our public relations? And they said, by all means, but you can do it right. And I think in the end, they just realized it was too difficult, too messy, and they pulled out.
Confident that each day will provide sustenance, the Hadza never store food for the future. In fact, they hoard nothing.
Ikawa adomu kwa kusisimba, kwa simiti kwa piwa abi. Sasa kwa sumushu ede chikwa piwa abi sichake kwa silisha itikule.
The Hadza give us some insights into what it means to be human, psychologically, with their social interactions, their group size. Certainly, the ability to interact with other people was critical in our early evolution and developing our mental abilities, coupled with competition. Of course, there's a competition within the group, competition for mates, who's going to be the lucky one who gets to pass on their genes.
For me, language, our kind of language, has been something which I think promoted the development of the intellect. And once we have that ability, that enables you to teach about things that aren't present for the first time. It enables you to talk about the distant past. And most important of all, we can discuss. And when you bring different people to the table who have different experiences and they start discussing some problem or some idea, you know, it develops in a very unpredictable way.
Hadzane is a click-based language. It's distinct from every other language on the planet. It may perhaps be the oldest language on the planet because it is so very, very different, and the clicks are very unique. And you can tell even with an untrained ear how truly special this language is. It's not a written language, it's an oral language, which makes it even more difficult to learn because you can't take a class in Hadzane. There's only a total of 1,000 people on Earth who speak this language. When the Hadza try to identify in terms of in-group, out-group, who is Hadza and who is not, the number one go-to characteristic is who speaks Hadzane.
Increasing contact with outsiders, from tour companies to other tribes, has made it necessary for all but the eldest Hadza to learn Swahili, the language of East Africa.
Nafikiri mimi Kiswahili hiki ninapofahamu hapa tu kwa ya hamatatoga kwa na wakati wa wangati wa barabai tunayobadilishana asali.
Jamani, amjambo.
Sifi yako mtana.
Mbona sasa? Hata mzee ameshaanza kujua.
Habari za kazi. Can we come in here and have a look? Asante.
Lubei ama nataka kuangalia kidogo mbuyo inaotwangwa. Sawa.
Chukua mawe na wewe.
Mimi? Lakini hii si kazi ya wanawake.
Hata wanaume wanafanya.
Wanatwanga kweli? She's suggesting you take a rock and try it.
Okay, yes.
Bas, wacha jaribu basi.
Tujaribu.
unatuanga ukwate.
Anatwanga nini? Si sawa?
Natosha. Anatuanga mkono.
She's worried about your hand, Richard.
Yeah, me too.
He's saying that's enough.
Oh. Okay, I'm not very good. Natasha.
The Hadza have a very special relationship with the baobab tree and the baobab fruit. Women and children collect a lot of baobab. It's this great source of sugar and vitamins and minerals. It's like the Hadza Cliff Bar. They can eat it on the go, they can process it. If I find one, I grab them and eat them myself. They're absolutely delicious.
They've just cooked up a pot of baobab fruit porridge, which is basically the seed of the baobab fruit mixed with water and a little bit of ash to stiffen it. And that's what they're having right now, and it's a staple. Many nights when there's nothing else to eat, this is what they eat. Tayari. Hebu nipatie na mimi kidogo basi nionje. Mzuri? Tamu sana.
Tamu.
The Hadza are nomadic, changing camps with the seasons. When they move on, their grass dwellings melt back into the landscape.
A big chunk of the day, 6 hours maybe, give or take, is spent in just food collection alone. Most of the berry bushes around here have been picked out. The boys can climb a little bit higher in order to get those that are on the top of the bushes. Right now, in this particular region, the only berries that they have in abundance are congolobe. They actually are able to bring home several kilos of berries on every foraging trip. So if they do a morning foraging excursion and an afternoon foraging excursion, they can often come home with 7 or 8 kilos of berries. The first toy that a young Hadza boy will get is a bow and some arrows. Both Neje and Shinje have made very small bows and arrows for some of these little guys to practice with. So as you can see, the bow is very small. Shinje made one slightly bigger, and they've tipped the ends of these very small arrows with with the sticky gum that's like wax. And this way it'll stick to things and it's not dangerous. Wow. Bali.
Si tumemfundisha sisi tu kanani, tikaenda kupiga ndege, tikaua, tikaleta, bado wadogo, sasa tikaua, tikaleta, sisi nakula.
By the time you're 5, you can hit quite a lot. And by the time they're 10, they're bringing home a lot of small game meat.
Oh! So ikionekana napiga naleta nyumbani.
Among the Hadza, division of labor is organized along gender lines. The men make the weapons. The women make almost everything else, starting with their dolls.
They've found an old termite mound, and the young teenage girls here told me that it makes the best mud to create dolls. And it's mostly the teenage girls that know how to do this. And the little ones learn how to make the dolls when they come along on these trips.
Kwanzia wewe umeongea na yule mtoto, umefanya nini mpaka umeelewana, kuona, unakuja unamwambia mama. Mama ndio wanaenda kuongea na mzazi wa yule. Mama ndio anafikisha kwa mzazi wake. Unaona? Ndio hivi napoeleweka.
Kau unape kwese shaka ate kau unape se jeje chese hombo we hama. Sai kukwa da etsako se ngongo se ha ikanto ukhu. Akhwitite be ahlemene be se qhoqa bi se zase changanya akhwitite be ahlemene be. Se mata thoena etsako se kukwata se cheta akhwebeta se nguyeta chicken. Se ha
Olana kwenene ono. Sasa nina watoto. Nina kijana wa kiume na wa kike. Lakini watatu fariki.
The Hadza do in fact have very high infant mortality. This is partially due to diarrhea, of course, is a big one, malaria, things that anyone living in kind of a remote area without routine access to healthcare would suffer from.
Although there's a high mortality rate in the first few years of life, adult Hadza typically live into their 60s, some even into their 70s and 80s.
In Hadzane, if you say ichina, it's kind of let's dance, let's party, always. These are wild grandmas. Oh, Nube.
It's always a blessing and a curse when I'm trying to figure out how old the Hadza are for my demographic database. And one surefire way that I've found out is, although the Hadza might not keep track of years in terms of the ages of their children, you always know ranking. So you always know, birth order is really important. So you always know who's younger and who's older and where you fall in the lineup of your siblings. And parents can always tell you when an event happened, I always say, well, how tall was your child? And they can always tell you right away how tall they were. and an equivalent aged child, they're immediately able to tell you. So it's not that they don't keep track of it. I think it's just a different way of doing it and a way that makes much more sense in their community and in their population.
The Hadza have no words for days of the week, nor for the months of the year. They have no calendars, no stone monuments to mark the rotation of the seasons. Their sense of time depends on the wandering animals and the shifting patterns of their flowering plants.
Members of a particular Hadza camp are largely unrelated, which means that they're choosing who they want to live with. They can live with the wife's family, or they can live with friends. There's a lot of fluid movement between camps, and so if you need more help, you can move to a camp in which you can get it. Or if someone needs help, they can move to you. There are no chiefs, there is no hierarchical system. You have people that tend to be listed as the better hunters or the better gatherers, but for the most part, there's no political hierarchy. They are egalitarian. The total population of Hadza is approximately 1,000 individuals, and of those 1,000, 300 are practicing a hunting and gathering lifestyle. If you want to have a job and you want to have a formalized education, that can't happen when you're in the bush.
Mangola, the nearest town, is a 2-day walk from the Hadza Highlands. It was once one of the 4 major Hadza regions.
Mimi ni nani? Santa. Sijaambia jina. Nafanya kazi wapi?
There are Hadza that live here in Mangola, or kids that live in the bush that want to be in school.
Kwanza siku ya kwanza gari limekuja pale shule tukaambiwa sasa tuko tunaogopa. Sasa ile tulipochukulia sasa kuna wakubwa wetu walitutangulia. Fika pale shule nyumbani tunakaa nao kwanza kupigia story. Niwaambia kitu bweni mkifika mtakula. Wali sasa tukisikia hivyo tunafurahia. Na kwamba shule ukitoka bweni ngazi mpaka darasani. Kwa hiyo tukawa tumefurahia hali hiyo. Lakini baada ya kuja huko tukaona ile walikuwa tuambiwa kubwa zetu ni uongo. Sasa tukaanza kujua. Hata kuingia darasani tulikuwa tunaogopa. Tukimwona bwana amenyanyua fimbo, tunajificha.
La kwanza nikaona shule mbaya, la pili ndo nikaona shule nzuri hadi sasa hivi nimesoma na nina akili ndo na timu.
All of the children that are boarding here will eat this food. Dinner tonight is ugali, which is a Tanzanian staple, which is really good, very delicious. It's corn flour that's been made into something
like a cake,
like grits maybe. It's really delicious.
Maisha kule kutamani kule kuishi tunatamani, lakini tunapokuja hapa shuleni tunakuwa tunatamani mazingira ya shuleni, lakini tunapoenda kule nyumbani nako tunatamani maisha ya nyumbani kwa sababu kule tunapata matunda nini, tunafaidika na maisha kule nyumbani.
Barack Obama. Unamfahamu huyu? Ni baba yangu.
Yaani mpaka tuweze kutaka swaki, lakini baadaye sisi tulikuwa tumeipenda shule ndio maana tukumivumilia mpaka tumemaliza sasa darasa la 7.
Kwenye jamii nyingine, jamii yangu inione kama mfano, iguswe na wenyewe wakazani. Ndio maana nimekuja kwenye shule, nimekuja kwa malengo kwamba kama modo mfano wa kuigwa na jamii. Kwa sababu mimi ni mwalimu wa kike wa pekee katika jamii yangu kusoma. Aliyesoma walimu na pia aliyesoma mwenye kazi.
Tukafanya tikani shuleni, amejua kusoma, sasa kufundisha kuandika. Tukafundishwa kuandika, basi wale akaacha sisi tunaandika peke yetu. Basi mwalimu akakuja akasema sio hivyo, umeandika umekosea. Tukapigwa sisi na sisi hajazoea kwa kupigwa hapa nyumbani. Sasa ile tikalala sisi na uneje, basi sasa ile asubuhi sana sisi tikatoroka sisi. Kafundishwa kuandika, wale akaacha sisi tunaandika peke yetu. Basi mwalimu akakuja akasema sio hivyo, umeandika umekosea. Ikapigwa sisi na sisi hajazoea kwa kupigwa hapa nyumbani.
Sio hujapita msituni.
Tumepaswa msituni alafu naenda kuchukua nana barabara, tumepaswa na kuchukua nana barabara na tupaswa. Wakati tikaenda kwenye wazazi.
Mtoto wangu nafikiri ninapofikiria sasa hivi nafikiria mtu kama mimi sasa na watu Wahadzabe wengine waliokuwa wako katikati ya makabila. Inabidi watoto wasome shule. Kwa sababu kama watoto kama hawatasoma shule, sasa hii tabia ya kwetu kufunzisha zamani kama sisi wakati tunajua hata pindi kufuta kidogo kupiga ndege hakuna. Mandege tutayaona wapi? Mandege siku hizi kuona ni kuku ya watu tu Waswahili wanaozingira nchi yetu. Sasa tutafanyaje? Afadhali watoto wasome.
Traditionally a part of Hadza land, the lush Mangola region has attracted other tribes who have turned the area into a major onion growing center. Natural resources have been depleted, and the Hadza have been outnumbered and marginalized.
Sababu hapa kwetu maisha yetu sisi ni ya kichakani, halafu pili chakula chetu sisi hatuwezi kununua kama mjini. Unaona? Mjini una utofauti, nyumba ya kulala paka hela, chakula hela, unaona? Maji hela.
In Mangola, it's very difficult for the Hadza to get some food because the animals have gone away to the reserves. And also it is very difficult in Mangola to find berries. They have to beg from other types of tribes so that they can get food. And whenever they get money from the tourists, what they do is that they just go and buy alcohol.
Wanatumia sana pombe za kienyeji, kutokana kwamba hakuna eneo la kuweza kuwasababisha waweze kupata nini chochote. Kwa wanatumia, wanaona kama pombe ni kama chakula chao. Lakini kama wangetengeneza eneo special, kwamba hii eneo la kwenu, basi hata wao ingekuwa ni rahisi kuweza kufanya shughuli zao vizuri.
Medi. Mtahana. Pole dada. Nimenunua dawa. Sasa. Unauma leo? Umemkaje? Bridi. Sasa. Unahitaji kula 2 mara 3 kila siku. Sawa? When we first arrived, my friend Tatu told me that her daughter had been sick for 3 weeks. So I checked her out. I brought Holiness out, and Holiness was able to diagnose her with pneumonia, a pretty severe case. So she's been really sick. We gave her some painkillers, and this is medicine from the hospital in Barzani. Kunywa maji. Sawa. Kunywa tu kama dawa leo. Sawa. Unahitaji kunywa maji mengi sasa kwa sababu dawa ni kali kidogo. Sawa. Haya.
Alafu zamani sisi ugonjwa hamuna sasa. Tulikuwa tunatumia miti shamba ya Wahadzabe. Tunachanja anapona. Mimi kama naumwa au bibi kama naumwa, mimi mwenyewe nachanja naweka dawa yako. Anapona. Anaendelea.
Mtana ingine. Akugoko mahema.
Ni nyumba kwa isa sisi Hadzabe na jenga namna hii. Ndio.
Na watu wangapi wanakaa hapa?
Watu mengi ndio. Hapa watu nalala na kule watu nalala.
Iko Azaya.
Ndio.
Sababu ya mvua.
Sababu ya mvua.
Maji naweza ingia?
Naingia. Angalia tu hata leo naingia.
Mimi naona kidogo tu.
Sawa.
Now we got Isaiah telling us that even in a heavy rain, very little water comes in. It gets cold, but because we have the fire, then we can all stay warm. And it's ready now for cooking in about an hour.
Hadza mythology tells of the importance of fire to our earliest human ancestors. The Hadza recognized that their god Heine's gift of fire forged our predecessors into the humans they would become.
Long ago, the first people had no fire. One day, Haine came with a freshly killed eland. Haine asked a woman to light a fire. The woman tried, but she could not reach the ground to light it. After lighting the fire, he put the eland on to cook. He asked the woman to distribute the meat among all the people so that they could taste cooked meat for the first time. When they had eaten their fill, Haine first softened and then broke the people's knees so they could sit by the fire and draw warmth from the flames.
Kwamba utakuwa unapekesha hivi. Nikiwa mtoto mdogo. Alionifundisha moto ni baba yangu. Kama tungekuwa na moto, kwa kweli tungepata shida. Na tungepata shida vibaya sana. Na vile mababu zetu wa zamani walikuwa wanatumia hii kitu. Na walipofariki mababu zetu wa zamani na wakatuonyeshea na sisi wakasema kibiriti yenu sisi nyinyi wa Hadzabe ndio hii hapa. Msihangaike kwenda dukani kununua kibiriti ya Waswahili. Ndio sisi tunaotumia kuanzia sasa ni hii.
What exactly was it that was responsible for making us human? Everyone has agreed for a long time that the critical moment when our ancestors became similar in size and shape to ourselves was 1.9 million years ago. At 1.9 million years, the fossil record shows this remarkable change to a species that is so similar to ourselves that some elite anthropologists call it Homo sapiens. And before then, they were more like chimpanzees standing upright. Big bellies, big jaws. Humans have got the kind of digestive system that is very much smaller than that of the apes and therefore would apparently be adapted to cooked food. Cooking is vital for externalizing digestion. It means that the food can be eaten very much more quickly than food that is eaten raw. We spend less than an hour a day chewing. So how much time would we spend chewing if we didn't eat our food cooked? Well, you can judge that from the gorillas and the chimpanzees and the other primates. And it would be, we reckon, between 5 and 6 hours a day. Then there's one other thing that happens 1.9 million years ago. We have an increase in brain size that very mysteriously continues from then until now. The number of calories saved by having a smaller gut turns out to match very well the number of extra calories we need to have a big brain. So what does this mean? It means that the chance of coming across fire as a way to prepare your food enabled our species to have smaller guts, and that enabled us to have bigger brains. We are bound by our tie to fire. We see it in the way that every civilization lives today, every culture lives. We may not have campfires literally, but we have fire somewhere in the background providing our fuels. We have been fellow travelers with fire throughout human evolution, and that's what makes us so completely different as a species.
Sisi Hadzabe kwa watoto wetu tunafundisha wakati tuna jioni tukikula kongorobi tayari ile moto yetu tukiwasha tunaanza kufundisha watoto yetu ya Luka. Nasema ukisikia uwe ile ni fisi ni hatari. Ukisikia sesemea ile ni simba. Umeona sasa?
The Hadza's fires also inspire the energy and beauty of their singing and dancing, an essential part of their everyday lives.
Mtana? So, some kinds of fire use go way back, and others are more recent. It probably goes back tens of thousands of years.
The poison plant, and that's kind of scary looking stuff. That root that they dig up.
There are a few places where they can extract the poison. One of the most common places is at least a day's walk, if not further.
Nafikiri kule sisi tunapofika tunatengeneza kama miko, tunachimba tunachukua ile mnani yake.
The poison is from a plant called the desert rose. Even if they take a cutting, you end up using all of it. And of course, they take just enough that it regenerates.
Nafikiri nyasi hii kinachokuwa ni chujio, ila hili takataka lingine ile juu lisiingie ndani.
The neurotoxin derived from the desert rose is powerful enough to bring down any animal except an elephant, which the Hadza don't hunt.
Umuko otoicha atibi iyo titicha isipisho hiyo sumu tunaenda kukamua, hatimaye tunachemsha karibu inakula masaa 3 ndio inaiva. Inatengeneza kama ugali. Ndio inakuwa sumu kabisa.
There are poisons that can be made without fire, but this one is much more deadly than the others.
Ni sumu kali sana, ikiingia kwenye mwili ya mnyama lazima mnyama inakufa.
Lakini baada ya uwa nyama, unakula nyama?
Nafikiri nyama
unakata nyama ile ambayo unakaa sumu hapa, unakata hii nyama na tupa.
Okay.
The black mamba is one of the deadliest snakes on earth. The Hadza kill it on sight. And it is one of the few things they will not eat. Not all mortal threats are as obvious as deadly snakes. In the past, the Hadza relied on water from springs, but the demands of local agriculture and the sustained drought ravaging East Africa have reduced the water table. Consequently, the Hadza have been forced to dig deep wells.
When we were getting water, this Datoga man came up, so we quickly moved all the buckets. They've built this trough here, and every day he comes in and cleans it and prepares it for the cattle to come and drink. The relationship with the Hadza and the Datoga is pretty complicated, and they navigate it on almost a daily basis. This is a traditional Hadza watering hole that's now used for all of the Datoga cattle that come up every day.
The Hadza have a very peaceful culture. They do not try and fight back. They try and negotiate.
Na tulimweleza mara 10 sana hapa kwamba wewe ng'ombe usilete hapa. Lakini yeye ni mjauli yule. Hao kabila wa Barabai ni wajauli.
Majini hapa tu hao.
uweze kuchukua pale msitu. Ni hapa tu. Every time we think that all of the cows have come, more arrive. I asked Membe about how she feels about the cows coming to the watering hole, and she said that she understands that the cows need to drink, and that it's not bad that the Datoga are here. It's just bad luck. Nimekwisha kabisa. Bado kidogo. Amesha. Lakini kwa Hadzabe unaweza kunywa maji leo. Huyo anagopa.
The cattle do eat anything that's green, berries, Hadza peanuts, all that stuff ends up being eaten before there's a chance that the Hadza get to it. Wildlife becomes a big issue. The impalas are no longer there. The kudu disappear back into the hills.
Naona ni wameharibu kabisa msitu wetu. Naona wamechunga majani, wamemaliza. Naona wamekata miti mingi wanaweka kwenye maboma yao, wanaharibu sana. Ni usumbufu kabisa kwenye ufugaji kwa sababu wafugaji paka kwenye majani wanafika wanakula ng'ombe kwenye nyumbani kwetu.
The Datoga themselves have been pushed out of their land and have been pushed further and further into the bush in order to find a place for their cattle to maintain their way of life.
Kama itakuwa imebadilika inaweza kutokana saa nyingine kama kuna ukame mwingi. Inaweza kubadilika sasa kama ni ukame wenyewe sana sana wanatumiaga matunda. Sasa kama mvua hamna matunda watapata wapi? Sitakuwa ni ngumu zaidi.
You have these two second-class groups who are also discriminated against in the country, who lose land out to agriculturalists. It's history played out.
Makabila wanazidi labda kutufukuza sisi Wahadzabe katika nchi yetu. Kwa sababu gani? Matatoga yamejaa, makabila yamejaa kutoka wapi, wamechanganyika hapa kwetu. Sasa sisi tukabaki kama mtu tuko katikati ya duala ya watu na mnai kama boma.
In the very near future, there will be nowhere left to go. There's nowhere left to push any of these small-scale societies.
The other thing is that you have created all these huge game reserves. So land that they used to use is now off bounds.
Commercial hunting groups have leased land from the government for tourists that want to go on hunting safaris. And Hadza men are not allowed to hunt. They are arrested for poaching on their ancestral land. It also affects gathering because it's not safe to go tuber digging or berry collecting when you're in an area where people could be shooting animals or shooting at what they might think is an animal.
Beyond that pressure, people in position of power look and see these resources and say, how can we capitalize on them?
People in power are behaving as if they own these common goods. They own forests, they own rivers, they own the soil, they own the land, and they can dispose of it as they please.
The Hadza, of course, don't really recognize land rights in any traditional way. To them, you share the earth with the animals and plants that are on it.
Watu namna hii ni watu ambao mnahifadhi sehemu.
Ndio, kwa sababu sisi ndio maana tunakaa sisi hapa. Hii sehemu tuseme bosi, sisi tunahifadhi kabisa kwa kweli. Afadhali sisi tukatulie moja kwa moja hapa. Tunaambia tutulie, tuangalie eneo letu hili la wanyama. Kwa sababu tukishaondoka tu tuache nafasi hapa, watu wanaingia wanakuja kulima.
People assume, well, it doesn't really matter where they live. They're nomads. We can take them out of here and move them over there. The problem is they accumulate this knowledge of the place where they live, and they become very closely attached to it. And also, all of their dead are buried there. The whole place is one giant burial ground. And so, they're connected intimately with their ancestors when they walk through this land. So when you take that land away from them, you're taking away a critical part of their culture. It really is what defines them.
Hatuwezi kuhama kwa sababu hapa imekuwa kama sehemu ya kuishi kabisa. Ingekuwa tumeshahama tungehama hiyo sehemu miaka nyingi sana. Wataishi porini kama mimi.
They are now to the point where they realize that land is the most important thing. But in the meantime, we've lost so much land.
There used to be something like 2,500 square kilometers. Now they're talking about more like 500 square kilometers.
I was having tea on my veranda and 4 Hadza came to the gate. I knew a couple of them and they said, "We heard you help people with land issues. Will you help us?" And that really started us off.
This is where the Hadza convened in December of 2010 for a fairly large magnitude meeting for the Hadza. They don't usually convene in numbers like this. There were 5 to 10 representatives from every community.
The idea was there would be no formal agenda, but the focus would be on how they define their future and have some influence over what that future is instead of responding to the pressures from outsiders.
While they were here, they made plans to set up game scouts and Hadza scouts, basically, to go out and do anti-poaching and keep out elements from the neighboring communities that they didn't want in their area. This is the first time this has happened, with 150 Hadza representatives from each of the communities coming together to do this. It's unprecedented in Tanzania at this point.
We're not trying to keep the Hadza as they are or in a certain way. What we're trying to do is give them options, knowing that cultures change, they are changing, they're in transition. We're trying to get the Hadza to use the village structure to get rights within the Tanzanian political and legal framework.
This generation has to find its own adaptations that make sense. Some of them will be borrowed from the past, some of them will be borrowed from other societies, but the point is that they have to make sense to the contemporary conditions.
Kuna wakubwa wanakuja kutueleza kwamba sisi ni nendeni mkamchague, labda sasa hivi mwaka huu tunamchagua Naftali Zingo ni Mwazabe, tunamchagua ikawa diwani wetu sisi Wazabe.
The really good news is that we've got a letter from the Commissioner of Lands that is instructing the district of Mbulu to grant title of a couple of nice pieces of land to the Hadza as a community.
Kweli hii kupata cheti ninavyoona italeta mabadiliko, na kama italeta kwa wingi,
kwa sababu kama cheti tunayo nasi tuko huru kwenye nchi yetu na hakuna buguzi aina yote.
It is a drop in the ocean if you look at the larger picture of what could be Hadza land, but it's a beginning.
This is a start, but it's not big enough for the Hadza culture and the way of life to be maintained over time.
This initial land rights recognition by the Tanzanian government has thus far proven unenforceable. As recently as August of 2012, a Hadza scout was killed while confronting poachers. But for the first time ever, they fought back as another Hadza fatally shot one of the intruders with his bow and arrow.
Frankly, I worry a lot about the future of the Hadza and whether or not we can move quickly enough to really make a difference.
There is still a long way to go in terms of the Tanzanian government's attitude towards special groups like the Hadza. But it's changing. It's a positive trend. They live in a way which represents a greater part of our human history. And in a way that, on both the environmental and the social side, achieves goals that most societies aspire to but do not achieve. So what this piece of land does is not keep them how they are, it gives them a foot so that they can develop more on their own terms than if they did not have this land. But what I hope is that my grandkids can still go out walking with the Hadza, gather the stingless bee honey, dig the roots, and just appreciate this intimate connection and deep knowledge of the land that they have.
Mimi napenda jamii wote wa Hadza wangebaki kama wale, kwa sababu ni utamaduni wetu, ni utamaduni mzuri tu ambao unatuwakilisha sisi pote pale tunapotembea katika dunia hii. Ila kwa maisha yangu mimi bado atakuwepo, lakini kwa watoto wangu itabaki tu ni historia kwamba alikuwepo.
It would be an utter tragedy if this area is completely destroyed. So many people who don't understand, who don't know these people, they feel, well, they can't really be happy because they don't have what we feel in the Western world is necessary to make us happy.
They are a part of globalization, and I don't think that they should just remain as they were 10,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago, because no one remains that way. But in terms of what they continue to do, it ought to be recognized and it ought to be respected.
It boils down to a human rights issue. For the Hadza that want to stay in the bush, they should be able to do so. They should be able to stay in the bush and try to practice a sustainable lifestyle of hunting and gathering for as long as they can. The days are dwindling, and I think within our lifetime there will be no more bush for the Hadza to live in. We're running out of time. If we don't help them make this choice now, that's it. We don't get a second chance.
We're going to lose forever a tie to our ancestry that is the most important tie that there has ever been in terms of making us human.
Kukaa hapa tulini mpaka uzeeke. Nani kule nikienda mjini, siamna kongorobi, nguila be, nani tafa be amna. Hapa tulini iko, kule mjini hamna.